Welcome back to another episode of the Jessica Ella podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Ella, and today I have Dr. Sarah Jane with me, which I'm just so excited for, like literally beaming with excitement. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It was good to have you a few years ago in one of the early spinal breathwork events, and then to have you reach out. I was like, I remember her.
Yes. I feel like I was even saying to my partner on the way here because we both sort of started similar times, and I remember everyone talking about you, and I remember like almost booking to come in and see you, and maybe even messaging you to come and see you and do a session swap. Like literally it would have been like 5 years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And then it just never eventuated. And I'm so glad that we made it. And we've tried to catch up to just like, get to know each other, and it hasn't happened. So it's great that we get to do it here. We'll do it today just on camera.
I think we've tried a few times to catch up and we couldn't.
Yeah.
So now we're forced to, so that's good. No.
I know, business. Isn't that sad that like we were trying to form a friendship, but we couldn't actually do it unless it involved business?
Yeah, that actually says a lot about me.
That's actually life. No, that's pretty much me too. All right. So for anyone who doesn't know you, can you just give me like a little rundown of, I guess, how you got to where you are, what Spinal Energetics is, and then we can talk about what just happened, because you've just done it to me and I have like a lot of questions.
A little taster. Everyone does ask me this question, and it's a really hard one to answer because there's not really a streamline, one thing that led me here. It's been an accumulation of many things, just like you and your life. I would say Spinal Energetics is essentially the product or the essence of what I've accumulated through my life as a human in my 39 years of being here on this planet. And that's the good, the bad, the ugly, just everything that I've learned to want to still be here, to want to still have faith in humanity and good people, and to want to participate in life. And in order to do that, I had to go down many roads and many routes, from psychology to chiropractic to energy medicine to, alternatives as well, just to see what else was out there besides just the Western perspective on mental health and well-being and emotions and trauma and all those things. And that's kind of the short answer to what's, I guess, accumulated. It's an underplay of what it means to me. But the reason I care so much and love what I do so much is because it is essentially an essence of my life and what I've gone through, and wanting to be there to help others when I felt like I didn't have necessarily the kind of help and support that would have benefited me many years ago. Instead, kind of had to wait for these things to develop and new things to be presented to me to kind of experience what took me years, hopefully could take you an hour instead with a session. Yeah.
We're very aligned in that. Yeah. That's very much my mission too. So I guess thinking about like, you said that there's these traditional methods, and there was this is kind of what you wish existed to help. What was it like back then? And what were the things that you were doing and realizing that, this isn't working? And you mentioned like it's in a way that this is like giving your life purpose. I would assume then that it was feeling purposeless before that. So like, can you give me a bit of an understanding of like what was happening back there?
I'd say, like many of us who are kind of interested in this work, it started from a pretty early age of just feeling like different. The way I processed the world, the way I saw the world was always different. I remember from being very young and my mum being like, why can't you be like your sister and your brother, Like I was always asking questions or needed constant stimulation, needed all these things that, maybe if I'd been a child born in this era, there might have been some different approaches to a child that was just very quick-brained and loved learning and was curious about everything. So that was probably where it first started, that I realized that the way I viewed the world was different and the way that I felt in the world was different. I was always such a deep thinker from really young, and I think that's a beautiful thing. But it also meant that I think I felt sadness and harder emotions from an early age than I think my peers at least seemed like they weren't. In high school I remember feeling like depression and sadness around things that weren't really, I guess, contextually a causation for that kind of level of sadness, because I had beautiful friends. I was pretty good at school. Could never really quite work out, but there's obviously something deeper going on that I didn't understand at that moment in time. And then there was a physical assault that followed that really changed a lot for me, and the way that my body understood what I felt. And started experiencing psychogenic seizures, feelings of just not wanting to be here, feelings of wanting to like just try and change the pain that I was feeling inside and not knowing how to do that. And from there, I was luckily enough, my mum had found a local youth worker who was really affordable through the local council. And so I was able to see her for some, counselling, or so to speak. And she actually did help me a lot, because I never had anyone else ever listen to me, and my mum couldn't afford traditional medical care or like a psychologist and things like that. So that was something I've always been very, very adamant that I wanted this work to be accessible to anyone everywhere, no matter their financial background or background in general, because lucky I had a great youth worker. Her name was Sue. I still remember. I don't think she's with us in her body on this planet anymore, but she just believed in me and saw something in me without trying to change me.
Yeah, she fully accepted you.
Yeah, and she didn't have to. She's just the local youth worker, but she really cared about what she did.
You sound special.
Yeah, she really was. Probably more special than I, at the time, even understood. And so I was able to leave that relationship when I was younger due to Sue. So I know my life did change somewhat of a trajectory because of that. But I also understood the value of being listened and listened to and heard. But they weren't stopping the seizures. They weren't stopping the anxiety attacks. They weren't stopping the sensations I was feeling in my physical body to almost like match the pain inside into the external. Like it was this strange feeling. That's something that was missing from that traditional aspect back then, at least I felt.
Do you think that assault triggered other things that potentially had happened throughout childhood, or do you think the assault was like the catalyst, or not the catalyst, but the one thing?
No, I don't think anything's a one thing. I would say it was definitely the most significant catalyst for that point in my time, because it was my boyfriend who I'd been with for a few years. Unfortunately, his father had passed away and he had started turning towards some drugs and things to cope with that. And unfortunately, when the physical assault occurred, he was, high at the time. So probably from someone I deeply loved and someone I didn't quite expect it from. And also gave me, it was hard to understand that good people are capable of bad things at times. It's still, even like now I'm 39, I was 17 at the time-ish. It's hard for me to even, that's why I understand why trauma survivors find it really hard to give details many years on, because there's so much that you remember but so much that you can't.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just remember being just heartbroken from it. Heartbroken from it, yeah.
And so there's a lot of information out there around, and I'm a firm believer in this. I'd be interested to get your take on it, around those, especially those teenage relationships. Like the teenage relationships, I think, are really telling of the childhood, because they're the relationships where you're like, this is what I deserve, and this is how love feels, and this is what it looks like, and this is the type of person energetically that I'm attracted to. Mm-hmm. So thinking about that and thinking about the fact that you were so young in this abusive relationship, I would be not doing any – I mean, everyone would be thinking like, where did that come from? Why did you believe that that's what love looked like and felt like? What was your relationship like with your dad?
Well, there wasn't one. So I think that's also why I was just drawn to attention and not necessarily love for many years. I didn't know my father growing up, and that's always been a very difficult thing for me.
I did read this.
Yeah. I think it's changed as I've gotten older. Different perspectives on it has changed. But ultimately, I think as a woman, to learn how to be loved from a man probably comes from your relationships with men from a very young age. And unfortunately, I wasn't exposed to one where I was loved unconditionally from a man. So I didn't really know what that looked like. And my mum hadn't been in many relationships. She'd been in one. But for a lot of the time that I was a child, she chose to be alone for that reason. She didn't want to introduce men into my life, in and out. And So I didn't have much exposure to what a romantic relationship looked like. I had an older brother who was brilliant and he did everything with me. I was so blessed, but he wasn't my father. As much as I'd like to say, oh, it's not just because of my dad, I really do believe that that did have a strong impact on me.
It's so interesting though that you did have it there with like an older brother, but that didn't feel like enough, or like that it didn't leave enough of an imprint for it to like ripple through into those further relationships. Because some people have that experience where they're like, I had this older brother though, and so I knew what it felt like and I knew what it was like. But it was like there was just this, and potentially because you felt so deeply, there was like that focus on the fact that he wasn't there.
I don't know what it was still to this day, like exactly, but I do know that I was very lucky when I look to my childhood of a positive male figure. I did have one.
Yeah.
And my brother, you know, we played sport together. Obviously, it wasn't that good if you could judge me by just trying to drink my water out of my water bottle then. But there's a 6-7 year age gap between us. And so he really took me under his wing in that way. And he's just a very placid, kind, loving male. So it's like I wanted that protection though. It's like I almost picked the opposite of that. I wanted that protection.
Did you later on in life ever find, like, have you been in a relationship with a warm, placid, loving person with that unconditional love?
Yes. Yeah, I have. It was difficult to not place that into a parental figure though.
Yeah. Okay.
So to maintain a romantic relationship.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in that relationship, did it start to feel boring, platonic?
I definitely felt like a parent-child relationship at one point. But that's because there was an age gap in that as well.
Yeah.
And I think I had never had anyone love me in a way where they wanted to guide me and help and support me.
Yeah.
And I think that guidance and that support came from a deep care, but eventually it almost felt like what a parent, I would imagine, would care for their child in wanting the best for them rather than an equality kind of romantic sensation happening there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And, you know, it's interesting because I obviously was very close with my mum, but she wasn't very protective or very maternal in her nature. She was like my best friend. And I feel lucky to have had that relationship with her and accepted that early on that that's the kind of relationship it was going to be. And I love her anyway. But she wasn't what most mothers would be in terms of that protection and guidance.
Yeah, okay.
She gave me a lot of freedom, which looking back is a very beautiful thing for my character.
Well, I was just about to say, do you think that was all like, you know, there's a lot of people that say your pain leads you to your purpose and all of those things that's meant to happen and it shows you, you know, your gifts. Do you believe in that? Like, do you think that it feels like hearing you say it is like, well, you're so powerful and you're so self-guided that like you were almost meant to not be guided.
Yeah, I think my mum just from early on was like, there's no point trying to guide this one.
I control this bitch.
Because she definitely tried to guide my sister and brother and I'm the youngest. And I think by then she was just like, you know what, like this one's got her own. She always said I came out like to the beat of my own drum or whatever that saying is. And she just knew that the best way to work with me was to let me be me.
Yeah.
And I think that freedom gave me that understanding of who I was from an early age. But I also think at times it made me feel unconsciously, not consciously, a little unloved. Because now that I'm older as well and I look back at the stuff I was allowed to do, I feel like there's no way that I would let my child do that, you know. I say that now, but I don't have children, so who knows. But there's this there was a certain trust though that she had in me, which was beautiful.
Older,
soul. Well, I was like her mum, essentially.
Yeah,
always have been.
The caregiver,
emotionally, anyway.
It's interesting because there's like I had a reading once and then I kind of researched it and found out that there are a lot of healers who become like lone wolves, and it's actually really common for them to kind of remove themselves from like family structures, relationships and things like that, because you can almost really focus in on your life's work and on your mission and your purpose. And I went to this healer and they said to me, you've done that for like multiple life cycles and now you've got to figure out how to be a healer and help people, but also be a part of a community and have
Sounds
a
horrific,
family
Jess.
and everything. And honestly, and I can feel that from you though. I feel I feel like is that something that you desire, or is it something that you like have kind of just decided that, you know, this is my life's mission to?
I think every human has a desire for community. I think most healers, unfortunately, have had a community that has maybe
burned them.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. And so there's what I think when I hear like you like being a lone wolf, it's because you've had so much pain in your life created by other human beings. It's not in, but then you're so lonely at the same time being a lone wolf. So you crave that real deep intimacy and love, but then you don't trust many people in order to give it to you.
100%.
And so it's kind of this strange, I'd say I'm half lone wolf, half communal wolf.
Yep.
I'm just particular about who I spend my time with in that community. And I am very much present driven in the sense where I'm like, I try not to expect too much from people in the future. Like there's a part of me where I'm like, oh, but we've done all this together, so that must mean that not necessarily. So I really try to be present driven. And not expect too much from people in some ways.
Which sounds really sad when you say it. I'm like,
I
not
think
trusting people and not expecting much from people. Is that? Yeah. What are you working on personally at the moment? Like what's your...
Well, I wasn't working on this, but now I might have to. I think for me, like, I'm very aware of all this stuff. You know, I've done a lot of work on it. So I'm actually almost doing the opposite of work at the moment. I'm in kind of my era of not working on myself for a minute.
Yeah.
I feel like I've worked on myself my whole fucking life.
Feels.
And it's going to be a continual thing. So I don't need to work it all out today. So I'm just having a little bit of a rest.
Yeah.
And a little bit more of acceptance of just kind of being a work in progress.
Yeah.
Especially as a healer in this space, there's a little bit more pressure to have your shit together at times because you're guiding people on how to feel safe and how you were showing the way of how powerful this work is, like Spinal Energetics. And I try to disappoint people pretty quickly in my trainings to just, you know, this work isn't about abolishing all your pain. In fact, that's probably a good place to start in terms of realizing that you can't.
Yeah. So
the work is powerful because it brings you home to who you really are. That's what's powerful about it. But it's not going to remove.
Yeah. So you're in a break. I did 3 years where I wasn't allowed to read a self-help book or book a healing session where I was like, I just need to be for 3 years. And I feel like those periods are really essential.
I've got the books still.
You read the books?
Yeah, I can't do fiction.
No, I was just like, no, yeah.
That's a really good idea though.
Education, no further studies, nothing. Like I just had to just literally be. And my word for those 3 years was fun. And I had to just try and have as much fun as possible.
Was it fun, Jess?
And I was like, it was actually fun. And I was like, I started with this like, I don't even know what fun is. Like what does fun look like?
So trauma survivors don't know what fun is.
No.
It's very difficult to have fun.
Super common, yeah.
And to trust the fun and that you're not going to get punished on the other side for having fun.
100%.
So I think that's why it's so difficult. And I'm a constant learner. So I'm doing my master's at the moment and I'm learning guitar at the moment. I'm putting that on here, so hopefully I actually stick to that goal. And next year I'll give a song.
We'll check. We'll do a follow-up pod.
Need to because I'm just really digging myself a grave here because I'm terrible. But those things, I think my trauma has been one of the major drives for my ambition in my life. But when I come down to the crux of why I'm so ambitious and why, you know, I've been so driven, I think a lot of it has come down to a real unconscious need to want to be loved and to be seen.
And that is like most successful people.
Yeah.
Most
love
people
me and see me, Jess.
Literally, I'm important. I matter. Like every CEO of every major company. Like I don't know if you saw Alex Hormozy and Tony Robbins' thing together, but literally, Tony Robbins broke him down in minutes and was just like he just looked like this little boy that was like all he's been trying to do is prove that he's worth something. And I think that there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I feel like that's where it comes back to, like when you're talking about being burned in the industry and things like that. It's because it's not actually, for a lot of people, coming from a genuine place of like, I actually just want to help as many people as possible. It's coming from this like superiority
spiritual
place.
world could be the worst for it too.
It can be the worst for it. And I feel like maybe that's why I was so drawn to you and why I messaged you and we were messaging back and forth, because I feel like we have that same mission of like actually genuinely wanting to help people. And, you know, I feel like Sue sounds like she was like that pivotal sort of person for you. And I feel like you want to become that person for other people because you understand how much one person can change the trajectory of someone's life.
I don't know what would have happened, honestly, if I hadn't have met her.
I got goosebumps thinking about Sue.
Yeah, Sue, like, so funny. I don't know. I don't think it would have ended well, to be honest. I just don't think it would have. Yeah.
So I always say, like, the literal bio of this podcast is that it's for brave women who are willing to face themselves. So I always ask people when they come on every cell in your body just tense.
Damn it. Yes, cheers.
Palms sweating.
Yeah.
Brave
My
women
palms don't sweat. You know that. Yeah. No, they do.
Brave women who are ready to face themselves and uncover the real reasons that they suffer. And I always ask my guests, like, if you were to be really brave, what would be the thing that you would say right now that you don't really want to say, but that you know that women need to hear?
That's tough. I feel like I'm going to pat myself on the back a little bit here. I feel like one thing I'm good at is saying what I truly feel and authentically feel. You know, there's nothing I can say. I just hope that, you know, maybe they can hear something in which of this podcast that resonates with them, to at least not have shame around things that have happened. I do think we still live in a world where it's stigmatized quite a bit, even though we are all interested in, you know, the body keeping the score, and trauma healing's become this, you know, fad essentially at the moment. Everyone's got trauma and all that kind of stuff. But I really still find it hard to talk about every single time. Like it doesn't necessarily get easier.
Yeah.
So I think choosing to be brave every time you share it, and choosing to have that courage anyway and share it anyway, is probably my best piece of advice that I could give someone. Because I think staying quiet on your truth and what's happened and what your life has been is basically you reconfirming to yourself that you don't deserve to voice it, and reconfirming that feeling like no one will believe you, and we've all had reasons to confirm that, but you say it anyway, you know, because I think if you live a life without your truth, it's going to catch up with you in some way.
100%.
Yeah, and I think truth equates to peace.
It does. It absolutely does.
Yeah.
I feel like that relates to I'm not sure in Spinal Energetics, so this is a question, but the fact that like words and actually speaking words has such a profound effect on our body, on our energy, on everything. Like actually saying the thing that you don't want to say out loud is literally like moving it through your body. Is that something that you incorporate into Spinal Energetics? Is there an encouragement of like words and sounds and things like that?
More sound in general.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people who end up trying spinal have already done quite, you know, extensive, you know, talk therapy. Not all the time, but we find that that's where most people start, and then they end up kind of diverting into the body work side of things. But I was a counsellor / spinal energetics practitioner. That's how this kind of came about. I used to do half talk therapy, half body work. And that's kind of,
I remember those days.
Yeah, I think that's when we had met. So that's kind of where it started and where my interest came from. But then I started realizing just the sound and connecting to the body in the depth, and being okay to express sound was powerful for people in the session, because even the bravery we were talking about before, it takes that same bravery to have a session.
And to make the sound. I have people who you encourage them and they're so resistant to actually releasing the sound. There's like, whether it's embarrassment or whether it's just like wanting to hold it in, but all of it's brave.
Yeah, all of it. Even showing yourself to someone you don't know that well is brave. So, you know, there's also why there is a bit of stigma attached to the work. as well, because it looks a little strange. It doesn't look like people expect it should look. And we're asking then for people to be perfect in their most imperfect self, where they're showing you their truth. Like, I just think that's ridiculous. But I've also never been someone where I needed confirmation from others that this work is what they wanted to see. In fact, I think if it was by the general population something that they agreed with, then I probably wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think my nature is always to challenge the general beliefs around things.
Yeah.
Because that's what got us here in the first place.
Yeah, and I think there's so many people that don't challenge anything at all and just literally believe everything that a certain group of people will tell them, whether that be doctors or whether that be, the media, the government.
The government,
like,
yeah.
There can be, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah,
but like,
that's another podcast. Yeah.
Turning into Joe Rogan here.
Yeah.
But I feel like, there is a lot of people that will just only – have you encountered – this is such a sidestep, but have you encountered a lot of people that do push against that? Have you encountered a lot of people that, hate negative things online?
Heaps.
Yeah.
Heaps. Yeah, heaps. But it's just a level of understanding. And then I think, where would I have to be in my life to have a fake Instagram profile, and to be commenting on some random reel? It's fine. But it is still a reflection of kind of the general synopsis of what the work is. It looks strange. Yeah, I just think people have never seen raw release from people.
Yeah, it's so foreign to people.
It's so foreign, and I think that's actually quite sad.
I always say, I feel that most people's suffering comes from the fact that they don't know what to do with their emotions. So, the trauma was bad, yes, and the visuals and the flashbacks can be bad, but the worst part of that is the panic that you feel in your body that you don't know what to do with, or the sadness or the grief or whatever it is. It's actually the emotion that we don't know what to do with that causes us to take drugs, alcohol, whatever the habit is, whatever the coping mechanism is. And I feel like that's what is being shown. It's so in people's faces and they're so uncomfortable with their own emotions that they just don't know what to do with it. So they put it down. And again, that's why I always say it's for brave women and brave people, because if they're putting it down, it's because they're afraid of it and you're actually not afraid of it by going into it. So it's actually so much braver to do the work than to just sit on the sidelines and put it down.
Well, no wonder people are keeping it in, No wonder people are getting sick and unwell.
Yeah.
And we're sitting here wondering why. It's right there. We're the reasons why. We don't create environments that promote people to be who they really are or to express their truth. The whole world's essentially a falsity. And for you to be successful to most people's standards, you have to be who you're not. And then we expect the body and the soul to just participate like another day. Well, you're meant for more than that. So this work for me is just another reminder that we're meant for so much more than that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, you can only hide from it for so long. The people who come for the sessions, they know the truth is in there.
Yeah, and they already know what's going to come up, what to heal, how to heal it. They sometimes feel shocked, but then later on they walk away and go, oh, I kind of knew that, or that made sense. Or it's bringing it up to the surface.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that in terms of, I'm so interested because I studied Reconnect. Have you heard of Reconnective Healing? Dr. Eric Pearl?
I've heard of, yeah.
Yeah, so he was I feel like I want to say it's the 70s or 80s. He was the chiropractor that started before.
It's always a chiro.
It is. Before he would adjust people, they would have these spontaneous movements and they'd make these sounds and they'd speak in tongues, and he was like, what is happening?
I'm going to have to
went down this full deep dive.
This.
Yeah. It's very cool.
Write this down, Katie.
He's Reconnective Healing. He's very out there.
Yeah.
But he was one of the first books I read 14, 15 years ago, and then studied that, and his whole ethos was talking about, one of the things that really stood out from him was when working with energy about getting out of the way. He says you've got to get out of the way. You've got to get out of your ego. You've got to get out of yourself. You've got to get out of the way if you want to be working with energy. What's your take on that, and how does that work when you're working with someone using Spinal Energetics?
It for lack of a better word, it won't work if you are still in your ego. So that's from the practitioner point of view as well as the client point of view.
Yep.
So we're human. We're going to have that element to us, of course. But if you're trying to get something from the client or do something to the client or make something happen, like it's going to do the complete opposite. And so what we're essentially doing is we're creating a space where we both take off our veils, our masks, which we can, talk as if that's the ego in this case. And in that purity of me being myself, you being yourself, then there's a huge unconditional safety and unconditional love that then comes out from the environment. And in that environment, that's when energetics can really come into play in the way that I work. Anyway, that's how I see it. So, yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. Yep. So you talked about we'll talk about what you did with me earlier, but after that little mini taster that you gave me, you said that, you talked about other energy healing modalities, and we're not here to talk smack about anyone, but in general, there are a lot of people who are moving energy and it's not actually working. Can you explain like what the difference is between what they're doing and what you're doing with spinal and like how that works?
Well, there's two components to it. So there's energy work that's not as tangible. So for the Western person, which is us, we need something real to believe in it. And energy is still this concept of something that's kind of a belief system. Like, I believe in it or I don't believe in it. And maybe they've gone in and received other energetic healings and maybe they didn't really feel much. That doesn't mean that nothing happened necessarily. Not saying that, but what I am suggesting is that not feeling much is not enough to get someone from our culture to go back or to believe or to see something of substance, because they need something tangible to attach to. That's what their ego needs, essentially, to believe in it. And then it completely dissolves once that belief system's completely dismantled. So with Spinal Energetics, what we're looking at doing is creating something where they can feel that they are energy. We all know we're energy, you're energy, I'm energy, everything's here. We know that this isn't really a physical chair, blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't mean anything when I'm sitting on a physical chair to me. It doesn't mean anything to my experience that it's not really a chair. So with Spinal Energetics, what we're doing is we're making you understand and feel and embody the feeling that you are energy. And so you feel it. You can feel the electrical currents. You can feel the warmth. You can feel the tingling. And when you feel that, there's all of a sudden something inside you that recognizes self. And from there, something really special happens. And I think that's kind of, I related a little bit to bringing yoga from India to, say, the Australian local yoga studio vinyasa class. It's going to be very different to the tradition, but it's molded in a way where it's going to be benefit to the people who need it the most.
Yeah, it's like not a watered down version, but it's like
an adapted
everyone
version.
Can't go to India, and there's not like, so that it's better than it's better than nothing, and it's better and it's giving them a taste and it's giving them an understanding.
Correct. And there's much more to the work than that tangible experience, but that's why there's a tangibility there. That's the essence of it. And for me, it was like, how can I bring the depth and the integrity of energy work, but to the palate of the people who need it the most?
Yeah.
So we're not secularizing it to the point where it loses its, integrity.
Yeah.
That's not what we want. But the people who need it the most aren't going to try it if we don't adapt it a little to their understanding and their perception of the world. So that's kind of where the premise was in terms of meeting this Eastern and Western perspective and really being a bridge for both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before we were talking about when we did the taster, or we did like a 10-minute, 5-minute, whatever it was, like experience.
I wouldn't give you the full.
Yeah, you wouldn't give me the full. And you said to me, like, in order to actually work with me properly, knowing my history, that you would want like an hour to an hour and a half to actually sort of be able to like deep dive in and move that energy. I'm super duper interested in people who, like, how do you find that it works in, say, people with complex trauma? There's a lot of people with complex trauma who listen to the pod.
Yeah.
How do you find that, like, you said it could potentially bring up a lot of things. What's the integration process when it comes to spinal energetics? If, say, for instance, it brought up something and I was having constant flashbacks and nightmares and things like that, like how does spinal tie in with that?
Yeah. So For me, and from the spinal lens, flashbacks, visualizations, re-experiencing the trauma or having to see it, feel it again doesn't usually happen. I'd say in vast majority of cases, it's a very unconscious experience. So when people are on the table, something feels familiar but completely unfamiliar at the same time. So you don't have to go back to those places in order to kind of shed that onion layer, if that makes sense. And that's a relief for a lot of trauma survivors, because for a lot of us, we've had to talk about it or go back through these moments over and over again. And that can make us resistant or hesitant to try certain things because we just don't have the energy to go there again. We don't want to feel it again. We don't want to talk about it again. And so this work can be really beneficial for that. In terms of the integration period, however, though, from the around up to 72 hours, the body is still digesting, and it's the unconscious body that's still digesting. So that could mean maybe you have difficulty sleeping. It could mean not because you're having flashbacks necessarily, but because the body's got a new sense of awareness of what's maybe safe or unsafe. Maybe there's an increase in, say, neck pain or headaches, not because we've done something wrong to the body, but because the body is now maybe possibly more aware of the tension you were holding in the first place. So
100%,
people with complex trauma tend to have more complex symptomatologies. And so the way they integrate can be at times a little bit more intricate and nuanced than, say, someone who's had maybe a more simple version. Not to water that down either, but you get what I'm saying.
I understand, yeah.
So based on certain histories, I will work with people in a different way because it's your fingerprint. It's your life. I don't treat every individual the same. I can't. There's no one else there like you. So in order for me to feel comfortable about what would come up and to be able to hold it without being construed by time, that's how much I would allow myself to make sure I could take you through the journey from start to finish in a way that felt honourable to you and your experience, and without kind of stopping it halfway or midway and then going, oh, sorry, we've got a podcast to do. You know, the unconscious doesn't care that we have a podcast to do.
Yeah.
And also your level of clarity and even being able to speak and produce speech can be changed after a session. And so, we didn't want to ruin your podcast abilities, but we gave you a taster so that you could at least experience the idea of what we're working with in terms of memory in the body. So with you, I was telling you what I found. With someone else, I may not do that depending on the client. But with you, I was like, okay, because I know you're inquisitive. I was like, so this is what's showing up. And it's not everything in your whole body. It's just a priority layer of what wants to show up then. And your body's guiding me. I'm not guiding the body.
Yeah, which is that getting out of the way thing again, isn't it? Because
exactly.
if you have an assumption of where it's going to go, I always say this to my students, is like, if you go in with prior knowledge and assuming and thinking, where am I going to take it and how's it going to go, you're not allowing yourself to be intuitively guided to where it actually needs to go.
It's the worst. It's the worst.
It's the worst way to work. Yeah. Which is where like scripts, things that follow scripts and things that follow like, okay, this is exactly the steps that you follow for someone who's had addiction. This is it. Don't make sense to me because that's not making people human.
It's not contextual. And it's not treating people as someone of who they are. You're categorizing everyone into a whole system.
Yeah.
And it's just not possible. Like even in our work, you know, we've systemized parts to try and make it teachable. But
because you have to a degree. It's,
But it's like,
otherwise people are just sort of floating around like, I don't really know what I'm
you need to give them
doing.
scaffolding or structure.
Yeah.
You know, at least initially. But then from there, then that builds the foundation for what we're just talking about. But, you know, we teach 6 processes, which are the 6 most common processes that you'll see in a new client, say. But that doesn't mean there's only 6. You know, we're just teaching you the 6 that are most common.
Yeah.
And can relate to this, may be like this. And the other thing that's interesting, though, based off that note, is people don't usually find anything outside of those 6 that we've taught. And that's because we've given them that structure. However, once you start unveiling that structure, then people start finding other things that exist, and that's getting out of the way of the ego and starting to work more intuitively as well. But we always set everyone up with a structure and a foundation, especially because we're starting to attract people from different experiences now. So maybe not necessarily a hypnotherapist or a psychologist or a psychotherapist or a yoga teacher. Maybe they're coming from corporate and really experience something maybe in their life that's led them down to being a client in this work and just so passionate about it and so drawn to it that they want to live a life like that. So how can we make it teachable for someone without that knowledge? And that's how we do it. But essentially, you're very correct.
Which is a whole different
yeah,
person, mentality, base level of knowledge. Whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
Okay, so touching on the mini little taste that you did with me, as soon as I laid down and you started pressing in certain spots, I felt the energy through my entire body instantly.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a common experience, or do you think that's because I was ready and I also work with energy a lot?
I think it's probably a combination. So I don't believe anyone lies on the table who isn't open, at least. I don't think they would be driven to it if there wasn't some kind of gap there for me to take. So I would say it's that, and that you are someone who's aware of what energy feels like as well. So maybe your subtle awareness is just greater than someone, Bob off the street.
Yep.
But I do believe that most people do experience that there's some level of feeling and sensation from a pretty early on. And again, that's what creates kind of this environment to for people to really trust the work as well.
Yeah. And so you moved straight to one of my sore spots, which directly links to this tingling feeling that I've had back in my shoulder for quite a while. Talk me through like when you were doing that little taster, what you were noticing, what you were reading in me, what was coming up, because I want to see what. Yeah.
So for me, I get drawn to areas to touch. And the body's kind of like, yes, here, no, there, da-da-da-da. It's like I'm having a conversation with your body, with you, because you can hear me talking while I'm doing it as well. And I'm like, no, not there. I sound like a crazy person. But what I'm essentially doing is presenting an opportunity for the body to guide me as to what it wants me to work with. And the reason I do that is, again, to remove that idea of me, like I'm going to unblock this to heal Jess. Like that's the complete conducive way to ruin a session. So it's allowing for me just to be aware and for you to communicate unconsciously what's happening. And there's certain organs, certain places that we press, whether it's acupressure points, acupuncture points, meridians, whatever. There's a whole different language depending on your philosophy, but essentially it communicates what could be stored there as well. But specifically, I kind of ask your body, like, what's here, what's that? That's why I was asking you certain personal questions. And for you, I wanted that confirmation that what I was finding was correct. And from there, it gives you direction of what I was shifting, what we were shifting essentially in that session. And it also gives you some confirmation that that there is something to the fact that the body stores stuff, because there's no way I would have known the stuff that we brought up. And two, that the body has an intelligence and a priority system to want to let that go as well. So rather than me reading your history and then, just repeating it back to you, there's something in that's I prefer not to read people's histories.
Yeah, me too.
Because it almost dilutes or like murks the water for me of the pure connection between what I'm trying to find in your presentation, so to speak.
Yeah, and it was so interesting because the first thing that you said was like literally the thing that's been the most recent, the thing that I've actually just felt like I'd recently sort of worked through it. But obviously it was still like lingering there in some way in my body. But it was so interesting that you straight away came out with that, and I was like, okay.
It usually picks the surface level stuff first.
Yeah.
So the body's very smart. It will prioritize something that's easier to work through or the most recent to work through.
Yeah.
And then as time goes on, you go deeper and deeper and deeper and closer to the kind of the core.
Yeah.
But it will usually present the surface first.
So is the theory that by what you just did, so say for instance, like what came up for me, I don't care about sharing. For me, it was around like this fear of like becoming or being put into a psych ward or being put into an institution, going crazy. I have a family history of schizophrenia, and that's been like a common fear. Is the theory that the body's now going to do what it needs to do through that adjustment, and that there would be no processing of, say, memories where I remember seeing my auntie being schizophrenic and beliefs that I might hold in my subconscious about, you know, the words of one day I'm going to be crazy, things like that, which I've shifted. But like, is the theory here that adjustment and that shifting of energy, because obviously I understand memories are also energy, like the visual aspect of the memory is also a cluster of energy, if you will, as are the words that make up a subconscious belief. It's all energy.
Yeah.
But do you think that shifting it in that way allows all of those layers to go?
Essentially. So for our belief system, the field is where it starts. So it's the root causation essentially is through the energetic field. And by working through that energetic field, we are then able to work with the other parts of you, the other layers of you, the spiritual part of you, the emotional part of you, the mental part of you. It shows up in the physical body after it originated in the field. So that's why we choose to work in the field. Now, what we see after that changes depending on the person, but it's usually a perspective shift. So in terms of your physical symptoms, maybe what we spoke about, like in terms of headaches or neck tension, there might be a shift in that. Maybe there's a shift in your perspective now, or the heightened attachment to, say, that belief system now. Doesn't mean that the belief system's completely gone necessarily. It may show up again at another time, or maybe it needs to show up. You know, that's not what my intention is, you know. But the intention might be to what's true for you, what's real for you, what is actually a real belief for you, and what's been a nurtured or belief out of safety and protective strategy. And it kind of sheds whatever's been there for protective strategy and what isn't essentially what your true soul is away, and brings you closer to your truth, which essentially knows that that's not going to happen to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so interesting. All I can think is how our personalities and our past experiences really shape the work that we're putting out into the world.
Yeah.
And our perspective, but also how needed all of it is. I think, like, because I'm thinking a lot of things that you've said, my views or opinions or the way that I teach would be like almost directly opposite in some ways.
So good.
But it's interesting because I feel like people who are drawn to what I provide need exactly what I'm providing, and people who are drawn to what you provide need exactly what you're providing, because the other things haven't, then they just can't do that thing where they revisit the memory or they say words out loud or whatever it is. And so this fit to them is the solution. And it just brings me back to that point of like, no one actually fucking knows what the whole solution is. And, you know, people are like, this works and this doesn't work and this doesn't work. And I've been guilty of that too in the past. But it's like potentially everything works. And it probably, like, everything works, but for different people at different times who are requiring a different method. And I was just kind of calculating your personality and my personality and the methods I teach and the methods you teach. And I'm like, this is adding up.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, no, spinal energetics isn't the only way. You know, it is our way.
Yeah.
And, you know, I wouldn't have been drawn to spinal energetics at certain parts in my journey and my experience. And it's there for the people who are drawn to it at a certain period in time. And that doesn't mean talk therapy is wrong. It doesn't mean Reiki is wrong or Chiro is wrong. It's none of them are wrong. They all have genius in them. They all do, because they've been produced from someone's life lesson. You know, they've all come from that place. So they all have genius in it. I remember I used to have a kinesiologist I saw when I was younger, and it was amazing, and it was life-changing for me. And her name was Meryl Key. She was a brilliant kinesiologist. If you ever, I don't know what she's doing now or where she is, but give Meryl a little drop in there. But I haven't seen her for a few years because I ended up going a different direction of where I was kind of drawn as I kind of shifted. And it's not hierarchical shifted, it's just shifted in different times and different moments. But then I might feel like a need to go back to that. So
you completed that process almost, like, or you learn what, there comes a limit and a time. And I think I've been really aware of that too, in that people, they get what they need, and then there's something else that draws them in next to the next layer or whatever it is, and that's normal, and that's good, and that's perfectly fine. I'm similar with a lady I was doing IFS with, or internal family systems,
which is very interesting.
Yeah, which is a whole other ball game in itself, having multiple minds and parts instead of one universal mind. But I had the same thing where I felt like I'd completed. There was no further work that I could do. I was searching for parts and speaking to parts about the same shit over and over and over. And it was like, I actually can't do that process anymore because it's not really moving. It moved me really far. And then it was like that I can't make more further progress with that. So there was like another.
I think it's important to listen to that.
Yeah.
You know, and spinal energetics is just, it's my perspective. You know, it's my subjective experience. And it's, you know, there's some of my beliefs that are ingrained in it. And that's why I always say whenever I teach as well, like, this is my philosophy. If it doesn't resonate with you, that's okay. You don't have to take everything I'm saying and adopt it. This is, you ask me a question, I'll respond to it in a way that's makes sense for me at this moment in time. But I'm never absolute even about my own beliefs or perceptions, because what I'm saying now would have been different to what I would have said 5 years ago.
100%.
And probably 10 years from now, I could be saying, you know what? Nah, it's not in the body. It's in it. Like, who knows what I'll be saying?
Yeah.
Could be a wolf in the forest by then. Who knows? But, you know, like, so I'd never cement myself to like muss or black, white, because they're just, we change. That's the one constant we have, change. And so I think it's silly to really, you know, hone in on an opinion as if it's black and white when it's essentially you can.
It's all your perspective.
Change.
Yeah,
it's like even in business, I'm very much that way as well. Like people are like, oh, you got to pick your brand colors and your logo so people know it forever. I'm like, if I don't want that logo anymore, let's go and make a new one.
Yeah.
Like, who said I had to have that? That's what we did, you know. So I'm allowed to change, and the brand's allowed to change.
I love that. I'm very much the same way, and I will admit if something that I've said in the past actually doesn't feel in integrity anymore, or if it's not aligned, or if I know better, I'll educate on better and
that's all you can do.
Information. But yeah, it's a difficult industry to be in too, because there is, like you said earlier, that kind of pedestal of this is you need to have healed yourself. The amount of people that have said to me like, oh, you shouldn't be working with anyone with trauma. You've got too much trauma. You're clearly still traumatized and blah, 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 blah. It is a really I
couldn't think of anyone better though to work with. You know,
literally.
Who wants to work with someone who's never had a trauma and is like a reflection of perfection in this kind of work? It's the complete opposite of who I want to work with. I want to work with someone who knows where I've been, who's felt what I've felt, and chooses to live here anyway. Like, that's who I want to take me there.
Yeah.
So, that's why I would pick you. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, it's a different mentality though, isn't it? That's not everyone's mentality.
Probably going to get cancelled for saying that.
They'll be like, you've got qualifications. You can't be saying that. Qualifications is a whole other subject.
They're real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really real thing.
Yeah, they're real. Yeah. In this world, in this thing.
In this world, yes, it is. Yeah. Which is, I mean, we could probably talk all day about.
I've got them framed, so they must mean something to me, but they also mean like just the exchange of time and energy of what I gave to, like, I essentially gave my soul to RMIT University for a good 5 years there, and still am now. I'm doing my master's there now. So I've you know, there's a part that you exchange in order to gain these pieces of paper that then mean something to, again, the population you're wanting to assist.
And being proud of yourself for what you've achieved and for how you've turned what could have been a different life path into this life path. Like they can mean something positive like that too. And
shouldn't have, I'm the first person in my family to have ever gone to university.
Yeah.
So it wasn't on my side to ever go there.
Like you said, trusting people is a bit hard and letting people in is a bit hard. And you don't like speaking about things that have happened in the past.
No, not at times.
Yeah. And bringing them forward. I guess I always have this, my personal opinion has always been that if you can't speak about it and you can't say it out loud still, it has more work to be done.
Yeah.
And it still has power over you. And so I always know that if my voice quivers or I shake or I feel really uncomfortable talking about something, that's still got some charge. That's still got something to work through. And I actually have worked through a lot of things to the point where I can say it. I used to have to dissociate. Now I can say it and I can be like, that was awful, but it happened and it doesn't even feel like part of my story anymore.
Yeah, I understand.
So I always feel like if there is those things there, there's still something there's still something there.
Yeah, definitely.
And I feel like I would love to know, from you, like I think I asked the question of like being brave and vulnerable in sharing something, like sharing something that maybe you're not actively working through because you're taking a break, but something that still comes up for you quite regularly that might be relatable to, because I do have a lot of like women in business and things, a lot of women who've had a lot of trauma that might be like that. I'm always the first to say when someone asks a question and I'm answering it in a pod, I'm like, guilty. I used to do that. I did this really fucked up thing, blah, blah, blah. I'm always the first to put them at ease by saying like, I've done that too. I've done this thing. So I love, and you don't have to do that, but I would love to like just get a little bit deeper and a little bit more of a understanding of like, of what's going on for you at the moment, of what's happening inside you, what life is like for you right now, like really.
Well, life's interesting always for me. I think, look, there's a lot of parts and pieces to that question. You know, there's some parts that are good and there's some parts that definitely still have charge that I'm still working through. You know, did I think I'd be single at almost 40 without any children? No. As that's coming up, that's becoming more of a charge and just definitely something I have to maybe think about a little bit more about what life in the future looks like, and just some decisions that, you know, can really change your life trajectory from this way to that way. There's and quite strongly too. So there's some decisions in that that have weighed on me for a while. You know, my ex-husband and I couldn't have children together, so we had difficulty having children. We had 5 miscarriages before they realised why, that we couldn't have children together. And so, you know, essentially there's a lot of pain attached to that, whether I do or don't. And, you know, a part of me really wants one, and then another part of me in my soul knows that I'm going to be okay if I do or not. But it's a strange concept to almost be fighting with the animalistic biological part of you. And then almost a soul part of you, but it's simultaneously. So that's something at the moment. Another thing is my mum's still in aged care right now, and I think a lot of people don't talk about this in terms of grief. But my mum was diagnosed with a really rare brain disease at 68. She's 76 this year. It's called ADEM, which is acute demyelination encephalomyelitis, which is a really rare autoimmune brain disease where within 24 hours, her brain essentially was attacking itself. And had all these massive lesions that have now caused extensive amount of brain damage, unfortunately, for my mum. And I can't believe it's been like 6-7 years or whatever it is that she's been stuck like this. And, you know, people kind of stop asking, you know, when she was sick at the time, and it was kind of, was she going to pass away or wasn't she? There was a lot of support, but then as time fades on, and she's still there to some capacity, there's a grief that comes with that consistently that's never stopped.
Can you read like your mum's energy? Can you read, like, have you done sessions on her? Do you have any sort of like, I don't know if this is an okay question to ask, but like any sort of perspective or understanding on why her brain would be doing that, like from a spiritual level?
Yeah, very much so. I really like Steiner's point of view on when people either are born kind of disabled or become disabled in life, and they're considered to be specially like handpicked and chosen. And the reason that they're chosen is because you have to completely dissolve your ego completely to live like that. And you have to completely trust and rely on the generosity of humanity to keep you alive.
Yeah.
And she does, you know. And my mum was a very, I don't want to say egocentric person, but she cared a lot about what she looked like, how she presented, how she spoke. She was very opposing to what she is like now.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I think she was chosen because she had to learn to trust and love humanity in that way. And I don't know that for sure. That's a meaning that I've decided to take on that helps me in my life, you know. But I don't know, but the amount that it's taught me in my life, I feel like some of it was for me, to teach me what real love and what really matters in life from a very, earlier age than most people would experience.
Yeah, and that trust of people too. Like, have you seen her be cared for by some really beautiful people?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it made me a little bit scared of the system, if I'm honest.
Yeah, okay.
I've got some health
It's more up to the surface, more distrust of people.
Just like in the sense, like, when you're young and you're like, if I'm sick, I'll go to the hospital and they'll help me. Like the system's under a lot of duress. It's not that they don't want to help, but the system isn't in an environment where they're actually able to help in certain ways. From finding her in her own feces to finding her, her changing tubes without gloves on and just a whole bunch of things. She was supposed to be sedated before going into an MRI because she was in psychosis. They forgot to sedate her and hearing her screaming down the hall, many things where you're just like, what is going on in this place?
That would be so hard to not have any control over that either, to be able to help her.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah. And so that's kind of a sad thing to learn. But then there's always been another story with another beautiful nurse or another beautiful person who's really gone the extra mile. So it's almost like an ignorance gets shifted or an innocence gets shifted where you realize like, oh, if you're bad, you go to tell someone and you go to the police, or if you're unwell, you go to the hospital and they make it better. Just these kind of childlike belief systems where you realize we're all just human beings and life is just unfolding the way that it does. So there's something that was hard. And also, again, people don't talk about it necessarily, but why my mum? Why not take my dad? He was the shit person. Why would you take my mum? My only sense of family I have. Take him. He's the one who's done all these things in his life. Why would you take? So kind of like this conversation with God, this conversation with the higher, like, justice and truth, that I think a lot of trauma survivors have, where it's just like, so I've had to go down more alternative routes like Steiner and things like that to really get my belief systems happening again in a spiritual level.
Yeah, because you can get really like, what the fuck? Why me?
Yeah.
I've had enough.
Yeah. I've had an interesting life. Surely interesting enough.
Yeah.
Than Stacey down the street, and things just kept happening, so to speak, at one point. So it was
one hit after the other.
Yeah. And it was a lot of waves to swim through and breathe through still.
What gets you through, like, because you have had a lot of waves, and it's kind of like that, you move through one thing and then like, it sounds like you've probably had a little spark of eternal hope like me, where you're like, I'm going to get through it. It's going to be better on the other side. And then something else shit happens and something else shit happens. What do you think, like, sort of, because a lot of people have gone through things similar to either of us and they're not here with us, or they're on the streets, or they're, what do you think really attributes, what can you attribute to the fact that you get through and that you actually, each of those obstacles, you just keep moving forward?
A bit of delusion, if I'm honest. A bit of delusion.
The delusion that it will all get better soon. Yeah, totally.
A little bit of delusion.
Love some Delulu.
Love Delulu. And also to kind of make something out of something that people I love can't.
Yeah.
Like my mum can't do anything. I've got some level of control in how I participate and show up in this world right now. So I've still got something I can contribute in a way that's understood by people more, The real answer as well, I don't really know. I do know when I see people like on the street or whatever that there's a huge amount of empathy, because I know that it didn't take much difference between me being that person. So I don't separate myself from people much. Don't care. Like if you could show me the worst part of you and I don't care, because I can understand that I could have or have that part too. I think there's a deeper understanding of our pain as people.
It sounds like you have a lot of self-acceptance too.
Yeah.
Like accepting all parts of yourself, good and bad. And even when you said like not working on yourself at the moment and just accepting as you are, it sounds like there's been this sort of acceptance of like, this is just who I am and this is just how I am, and fully accepting yourself.
Deep down, yes.
Yeah.
But there's still things that challenge that some days. And I know one of my fears
Yeah.
is being a bad person.
Feels.
Yeah, like if something comes up, I'm like, Katie, am I a bad person? And I need like reassurance that I'm not a bad person.
Yeah. Yep.
Even though I know I'm not a bad person, but there's some real big, deep attachment to wanting to make sure that I'm a good person, making life better for people.
Yeah.
So if I ever cause unintentional pain, which I would have, I'm a human being, that can be challenging for me, or a distress or stress for someone.
Mm-hmm.
So then I'll usually create that distress and stress for myself if I can, because I can handle it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's probably a trait that is something that would be better served in a different way as I kind of gain those skills of being able to be comfortable in other people's discomfort. That's a challenging thing for me, especially with what I do for work. My whole thing's alleviating people's discomfort.
Yeah.
So being comfortable and treating people in a way that they're also a powerful being that can do that too, and honouring that whilst honouring myself is something I'm interested in learning more about.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Am I a hard nut to crack, Jess?
You are. You've got a hard... You're like a combination of like open and closed.
Yeah.
At the exact same time.
That's exactly what I'm like. Good job.
You're like, yeah.
Yeah.
You're accepting of all parts, and you're like, this is who I am, and like it is what it is. But then it's also like, but also there's these like little things here that I'm just like gonna hold back.
Yeah, there's like something in that. I don't know exactly what it is. It's almost like a sacred relationship with myself, those parts.
I feel like it's almost a vulnerability though too, because I feel like sometimes it's easier to be like all the cards on the table and like call it out before. You know that thing when people like make fun of themselves so that no one else can make fun of them?
Yes, I think
it's a little bit of that.
I do use humour a lot.
Yeah.
I've noticed that in my life.
Yeah.
But it's also been a positive, I think.
Everything is.
Yeah. Like I will always make a joke, but you know, life's got plenty of reasons to be really heavy at times. So I kind of I think that gets me through, as well as having a bit of a sense of humour at this shitstorm called life. And yeah.
How regularly do you like step out of your human? Because I find like, you know, life can be heavy and being a human is hard and it's all, and then we step out of it and we look down and we're like, oh, it all just really doesn't matter.
Means nothing.
Yeah. And like we talk about that, we teach that, we work in that. But how often do you actually step outside of that and feel like you're living outside of that versus how often you're actually living in your human and you're like, fuck, I'm the biggest hypocrite.
Not me, Jess. That's all you on your own. I step out a lot. No, I think for me, I have to organise time to make sure I keep that perspective.
Yeah.
So like I just got back from India so it's very hard to be in India and think you matter. Like you just get drilled in pretty quickly that you're nothing, and it really reflects that kind of bigger picture. So every year I travel a lot, try to learn from different cultures and different ways of being to kind of connect to myself outside of myself.
Yeah, so you do it in like chunks of time where you fully check out and
and then I waste a lot of time just being in the human and complaining sometimes about some stuff. But I've got a really good team. Like I think the team that I have, we're all ourselves as well, which gives an environment for me to just be myself too, which I think is quite rare as a boss.
Yeah, I love that.
So yeah, I think I'm kind of blessed in that way, but I think I also don't feel as much pressure to be anymore, to be like I'm okay with knowing when I'm in my human and really participating in something that's not that important and just getting some perspective. And I have people around me, if I'm not maintaining that perspective, who can assist me with that perspective.
I always say it's like good to be in your human, but sometimes we're like way too zoomed in.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like that balance of being human and experiencing it, but also like not getting so zoomed in on something like that it just fully...
Very zoomed in on yoga mats not matching at a venue currently.
Yes, that kind of thing.
Katie's looking at me because what's interesting about me as well is I'm so aesthetically structured.
Yeah.
Like things have to look beautiful.
Yeah.
Because I need people to remember in these spaces that they're beautiful and life's beautiful. So
But
I'm very
that also
particular.
creates a feeling.
It does.
Yeah.
So like if yoga mats don't match, to other people, like that's not a big problem in life. Who cares? But to me, it's a very large expression of the beauty that you still have left to see.
Yeah. Which sounds positive and negative.
Yeah. That's exactly me. Open and close, positive, negative. Eeyore, Winnie the Pooh.
Love that.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you were talking before as well about, you know, the biggest thing at the moment in your life. I'm going to be vulnerable here. The biggest thing, get ready.
Yeah, I'm ready. Good. Yeah, let's make Jess be vulnerable. Make her
the
do
biggest
it.
thing in your life is this like at the moment is this like time pressure and thinking about kids, no kids.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I accidentally got pregnant at 25. My kids are 10 and 8 now. And I've been doing the healing work for 15 years. I've been researching, studying, obsessing, doing my own work, doing all the different random certifications. And when we kind of launched the certifications around the same time, and there was always this part of me that was like, if I didn't have fucking kids, I could have really put time into this and I could have traveled. And there's this like, there's been this feeling of like almost holding back or because I'm very much like, on the flip side of that, I'm very much like I will not sacrifice their childhood to be a busy, stressed mum who's working all the time. I want to be present. I want to be at every school thing. I want to be at pick up and drop off. I want to like, I'm not going to sacrifice anything. But that's meant that it's been a slower burn. I don't have as much time. And so I've watched you and been like, oh, I wish I had that much time. And it's so interesting when you said that because I was like, it's so funny because
I wish I had less time.
One part of me was like, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't like because it's
every parent says that. By the way.
But there is like there's a beautiful side to it too,
I know.
obviously. But yeah, it was really interesting when you said that because I was like,
I get worried about that too because I'm used to living my life at a certain pace, and you know, I've got a lot of beautiful children around me because of my friends and all sorts. Yeah, I've always got one of my best friends has a little girl at the moment, and I see her most days, and I just adore her. But then I'm like, okay, get to go home now.
Yeah.
You know, and like that's lovely. So I think also I've come to peace with just knowing it's not in my control anyway, really, is it?
Yeah. What's meant to unfold will unfold.
If I'm meant to be a mum, I will be.
And trusting it.
Yeah. But if I'm not, I have to trust that like my purpose in this time was something else. And feeling the pain of not having it is okay still too.
Well, you do have to. That's the thing. A lot of people will find the positive but ignore the grief, and then as you know, it will build over time. And
it will forever, you know. But I think having kids and then there's a grief that comes with that, with grieving a sense of self that you never got to develop to a degree as well. Like if you didn't have the children, you could have more time building your dream kind of thing. So. There's exchanges for everything.
Absolutely.
And I'm just thinking more about it because of the routes which are within my control. But yeah, I don't know. I think I'm going to be miserable and happy either way.
Miserable and happy. I love that. What a quote.
Yeah. So there'll be parts good, bad, whatever, whether I do or don't.
So true.
Yeah.
I think that reminds me of like, I think I've quoted Tony Robbins twice today.
Yeah, I love Tony.
I do love Tony, but he said he always says, I think the biggest problem that people have is that they think they shouldn't have any.
Yeah.
And it's so true.
Yeah, he's a genius. I don't care what anyone says.
He's a genius. Yeah.
He was my first like motivational speaker at like 14. My brother gave me a CD. See, my brother was very influential.
Yes.
It was a CD that I played in my Mitsubishi Sigma.
Oh, I had a Mitsubishi Lancer.
Yeah, my first car. And I think it was a UPW or something, like an audiobook on CD, and I just listened to it over and over again, and it did change my life.
Yeah. The power of his words and impact and the way that he phrases things really taught me the power of words.
Oh, he's crazily talented at NLP as well.
He picks up on everything.
Yeah.
On everything that
smart man.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, random question. What's something that really pisses you off, like pet hate?
Pet hate. Time. Yeah, I'm always late. Not today.
Yeah.
No, like if I Katie makes sure I'm on time. Find time frustrating.
Yeah, okay.
What else pisses me
Which
off?
is interesting
Car
because
parks?
that straight away just like literally pinged my brain to act when you're like, I feel like there's a time pressure at the moment to make this decision.
Yeah,
It's
there we
like,
go.
it's really tying it in.
Is this a session? Am I healed? Yeah, I don't like the time construct. Like the airports really stress me out. I fucking hate airports.
Yeah.
Because there's no
Time
common
pressure.
sense. You're not treated as a human and there's time pressure. It's like everything I hate in one.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I go there a lot.
Which time pressure can also be a positive sometimes because if you have this feeling of like you're running out of time, you really live life to the fullest, but then it can also be detrimental because it can cause you so much anxiety and stress.
It's a strange concept.
Yeah.
This thing. What else do I hate?
Asking Katie.
Looking at Katie. Bad cups of tea.
Oh, yeah. What tea do you drink?
English breakfast.
English
breakfast with some milk. Hate that. Hate animal cruelty. Hate people mean to animals. I love animals. People who don't like animals, you're weird if you're listening to this. Find that strange.
Someone said to me yesterday that it took her 10 years to get a puppy because she realized that by getting the puppy, she was taking the child away from the dog mum. And I was like, I've literally never thought about that. It broke my heart for like
I don't want to think about that now.
I know.
Well, yeah, I know. And I eat animals, so what can I say? But I love animals.
Yeah.
I love animals.
Yeah.
People who don't like animals, I don't like that. Oh, rules. Yeah, I hate rules.
Which rules do you hate the most?
Stupid rules that are unnecessary.
Do you break them anyway? Or do you follow them but like secretly just hate them?
Bit of column A and bit of column B. I won't go into which ones. But yeah, I hate rules that aren't there, that are pretending to be there to help us, but they're not. My stomach's grumbling, by the way. I'm sorry, I haven't eaten yet. Yeah, hate rules. Good point. That's about close-minded people I find really frustrating.
Yeah.
Judgmental people I find really frustrating.
I heard that.
Yeah.
I thought it was me before. And I was like,
I think it was you before.
Was it?
Yeah, it wasn't me before. It's me now.
Yeah.
Now we're communicating through.
You did push really hard in my stomach before.
Yeah. Maybe you've got to go to the toilet.
Yeah, maybe it's going to move through me.
Yeah, I know they're not deep answers, but bother me every day.
No, I like it. I just wanted some like random things in there before we wrap it up. Is there anything else that you want to either ask me or say before we finish this and wrap it up?
No. I think we've said a lot. I loved it. Thanks so much for having me. I've actually never done a podcast like that before.
Really?
No, not really.
Where it was just so random and sporadic?
No, just the type of questions, which I really enjoyed.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to just like actually genuinely ask you questions and get to understand
I could feel that.
Yeah. I like knowing why people are the way they are.
Why am I the way I am, Jess?
It really interests me. I know that yours is more like that, you know, it's all energy, but mine is all like, let's connect all the dots.
Yeah. It's an interesting picture.
Yeah.
But my picture nonetheless.
Yeah. No, I like it. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
You get me.
I feel like I get you now.
Okay, good. This is good.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
I feel like we probably need to do a round two. I'm going to like make you do a session with me and then we're going to talk about
it. Yeah, we should do that. We should.
No, I feel like there'll be more to come in some respect.
Hopefully. Thanks, Jess.
Thanks again.
Thanks.